Okay, well, that's by all means. Are you drawing?
I am drawing right now.
Okay, can you tell me what you're drawing or no?
Yeah, I'm drawing a Batman cover.
That's
Totally,
awesome.
totally not
I thought
Transformers related.
Transformers related.
But
No, no. Okay. That's awesome stuff. Okay,
uh
so we'll get right to it. Now,
okay.
it how can I say it being an interview is a bit new for me. While I do the interviews for the site, I'm usually more of a reviewer. So
Sure.
it for me it'd be much easier to tell you how I thought that the scene with Ratchet versus Starscream was reminiscent of Jeff Sr., but the fans watching this would not care because it'd be me ratting on all day instead of well when I have you that could tell me stuff instead. So
Dude, well, we
I
could talk about Jeff Sr. I mean, that guy is freaking
he's
amazing.
a legend. Yeah, but we say that, and yet, like I said, the art in this book was very reminiscent. The fact that you would use these, we'll say, basic geometric shapes, that's what Transformers are, but yet use them in
Yep.
a dynamic situation, that was the contrast that was always really cool about him, and we're seeing it here again. So I thought that was awesome.
He's
I,
been a huge influence on me, just kind of
Totally.
as far as like how to draw Transformers in a more organic way
Yeah,
than,
that's right.
you know.
That's right. Well, speaking of which, one of the comments when the first issue, the cover was revealed, was that
Yeah.
Optimus's hands looked more. While you do see the joints, they were less prominent. Do you know what I mean? The way it was done,
Yes.
like less, much
Yes.
less Alex Milne and more Jeff Senior. So that's what people were looking at. And I was wondering if that was part of you in a way to have the art reflect the fact that you're really trying to convey these people as not machines, but like we'll say humans
It's
for a
so
much worse term.
It's so funny that you bring it up. One of the things that Hasbro has notes for me is they're always like, "Oh, Optimus's hands look too human. Can we
Yeah, they
change
do.
this?" And I'm like, "No, I want it this way. Like, I want to go the more Marvel comics. You know, remember those Marvel comics? They
Of
basically was
course.
like
Yeah.
human hands with rings on them.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Yeah. So that is a stylistic choice that A saves me time because I don't have to draw like the
Yeah, every single
robot
joint.
hands. Yeah, it just takes too long. And also, yeah, it like gets in the way of me, like exactly like you said, dude, it gets in the way of me trying to portray these characters as living, breathing, not necessarily breathing, but living
Oh, I know what you mean.
metal objects. Totally.
Yes. 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 Sentient. Yeah, that's what yeah, fully
Yes.
sentient. Yes.
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yes.
Now, I have a bunch of questions. The first one is one that because the biggest change after reading the issue, and there will be a few spoilers, and I'm telling this to both you and to the people who've ever watching this, is
Okay.
that to me the biggest change was your timeline. Is that
Mm.
because I always found it very difficult to wrap my head around the fact that there was this million-year war, and yet people refer to like Optimus as changing character growth in like 10 years' time when for millions. Then I'm like, ah, that's not. How do you wrap that up? But you change it all. Instead of millions, really you lower it way more to hundreds, which us as humans can actually like kind of contemplate. It's easier to see. I want to know how that change came about. And if for you that is as big a change as maybe fans may think it is. So right, take it away.
Okay, so I think first off, that's a good note that you had. I cannot remember what exactly I've wrote in the script, but I remember being consciously writing it in terms of centuries rather than millions of years. Just
Hmm.
it, um, I or technically, I guess they were supposed to have crashed in like the prehistoric times.
Right.
Um, but it's like a detail that like in the script it just kind of helps to, like you said, connect everything a little bit more. But it's not something that I thought about super consciously, and it's not something that Hasbro really had any notes on either. So I think what it was just me, like again, trying to make that connection between robot and human that much more smooth.
Okay, because I'll tell you an example is, for example, you have Jetfire seeing them, okay, which he does in the cartoon as well. Technically, in the cartoon, he
Yes.
hasn't seen them for millions of years, okay, and then he sees them, it's like, oh, hey, what's up? Oh yeah, you're at the Decepticon now. I'm this or whatever, okay. So it's like they're old friends or whatever. But like, how does your brain like? How do you? But in this case, it's only been a few hundred years, and he has his own mission, so that's much more manageable to understand that. Then you have not the not rivalry, but like you have the obstacle of like he chooses on which side he actually has to go on, depending on how the war changed. So that I don't know. I thought it was manageable. Once again, see, it's me talking and not you. Can't
It's
do that.
okay.
Okay,
I
no, for
appreciate you. I
you.
appreciate your input. It's cool, man.
It's just saying, to me, it was the biggest difference. Another, this is spoilers, and if ever we can't talk, we can move on. But there is a character death in this, in the very first issue, and it does tie
Sure.
in with the roster that you and Skybound has revealed. Okay, now,
Yep.
so I'll get right onto it. In the very first issue, it seems like you want to do away with Bumblebee, so he's not, and not only does it serve as like, to show how ruthless Starscream is, but also to show the compassion that Optimus has, and that is indeed how the humans figure out, who's the good guy, who's the bad guy. So,
Yep.
show not tell, of course. Um, but I want to know, so the fact that you take out Bumblebee right away, is that in any relation to the kind of backlash that fans have had over the overexposure of the through all the media of the past decade or decade and a half?
Um, I so to be totally honest, I am pretty far removed from the Transformers kind of conversation. Um, I am more of an old school fan of shows. I love the G1 designs.
Okay.
And I've just never loved Bumblebee as a character. It's not, I don't like actively dislike him. I just kind of wanted a fun way to kind of swerve everybody. Um, and have a way, just like for the reasons that you said, show who's the bad guy, who's the good guy, and have a way for the humans to care and start vibing with who is the correct,
Side,
force.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah, but
and Bumblebee just had to be the one to go.
yeah, sure, yeah, but it could have been someone, could have been Beachcomber, could have been anything. Okay.
Oh,
Could have
no
been
way. I'd never do Beachcomber like that, dude.
could have been Holler, could have been any of those guys. Had to be one of these.
I
No,
I
it's funny.
I do I can't speak to the overexposure or anything like that. I
I see.
just
It was just personal to you when you're writing the story. All right, fine.
yeah, he
Okay.
just fit the mold and he is recognizable. It is a
Yeah, he
statement,
is. Yes,
which is what I wanted.
well, it worked.
Um, definitely awesome. Heck yeah, dude.
Okay, so now I have another question regarding, because once again, I know you're removed from this, but continuity is like a huge issue among fans. I'm sure for any kind of fandom, Star Wars as well. But in this case, for
Sure.
Transformers, because especially with the fact that each one is technically two separate continuities, because you've got three if you count the toys, which even their bios were a bit different than what we saw. But the two main ones, you had the show and you had the comic, which are
Hmm.
separate continuities, even though they're both considered G1. I wanted to
Right.
know, looking at that, how does yours fit in with continuity? I know it's alternate, but I want to know in your mindset, what should fans know when they're coming in from previous continuities? And what should they leave at the door in terms of what to expect?
As far as leaving at the door, everything.
Okay.
uh, completely new. Um, I have not borrowed or kind of taken from anything existing. I've been trying to make something very fresh and very accessible for people who maybe have not been a part of the Transformers kind of lore for either ever or a very long time. And so
Okay.
to that end, it's been me trying to deliver something completely new and fresh and something that of course will be recognizable to fans that have been there forever, but accessible to people that maybe have lapsed over the years.
Okay. Now, speaking of which, I still wonder if, like, does that mean that we can have a character from more recent media or even Beast Wars be in this and not necessarily be from the future, but just be another character that's there at the same time? I don't know if I'm being clear with my question.
I know, I hear what you're saying. I think for now, like for the first year at least, we're treating this Transformers title as a bit of a return to form, using the cartoon as our base, and in time, definitely deeper cuts coming. I can't speak to Beast Wars, but you know, characters that either are more recent or a little more unknown, definitely would love to make them show up. Um, as of right now, it's like the classics for sure. But it won't be that way forever, but it is the way for now.
like for example, the idea of, I don't know if you're familiar with the character Drift. He was introduced
Uh,
in the, yeah, go for it.
oh gosh, I can't say that I know
Okay,
Drift.
okay,
Sorry.
no worries. Okay, well then I guess it's not coming. But the thing I'll explain what's going on is because he was introduced in the IW comics, but within their
Okay.
G1 continuity. Okay, he's kind of like a samurai, a stereotype, and he's been in other media since. Okay, and the thing is that
Okay.
he has a backstory where he was a Decepticon turned Autobot. Now, what's fun is that because he does have that, but he was never in the G1 cartoon, of course, because he's a new character.
Okay.
But within the idea
Sure.
of G1, he has become kind of like seen as a G1 staple. Same with, for example, Barricade, who you may not know. He was introduced also he was introduced in the Michael Bay movies as just a cop car. He was like an opposite
Yep.
of Prowl, kind of the visual motif that Bay was going for. And since
Yep.
then, he's been incorporated also within the greater G1 landscape as the dark mirror image of Prowl. So
Okay.
I was curious about these characters. While they may not be from the original cartoon, and they have a G1 base, and they have stories that, because we haven't seen, because we only have seen them like with the war raging after that. So maybe, I don't know, it'd have been interesting, place to actually tell these stories that I've only been mythicized so far. But anyways, that was, see, once again, it's me talking more. That was it. So, but you don't know them. It's fine. No worries. So we'll stick with G1 for now. That's my main takeaway. Let's see.
Sure.
My other question for you, just to make sure I get to all the points. Oh yeah, big
Yeah.
one. Okay, so well, I got two. The first one is, so Megatron is absent on purpose, of course, but there is this line
Okay.
where Starscream says, like, I'm the leader of the Decepticons. Now, I want to know, is it just Starscream saying that because he will say that, or is that supposed to tell us that Megatron truly is not in the picture? Okay. All right, fine. That answered that. All right, fine. Okay. Well, I guess I'll take that as an answer. We'll see how I write that in the write-up. Okay.
Right on.
A question that you can answer, and this was fun.
Sure.
Now, Soundwave is one of my favorites. The cassette that he took out right away was Ravage. And
Mm.
I mean, it had to be Ravage. It's what I wanted and expected, so you delivered on that. But I'm wondering, why did I expect that? Like, why did it just make sense that it was Ravage that you took out? And I'm wondering if on your end too, you were like, well, obviously it's going to be Ravage. And if it's obvious, why is it obvious?
I think I've always really loved Ravage. He's really fun to draw because he is very organic,
Hmm.
which is kind of fits in line with my art style. Um, and so that was the main reason why I wanted him to be first, honestly,
I
is
see.
because
I see.
I like drawing him, and I also needed something. I needed something like animalistic that could kind of be bringing Optimus into a place of vulnerability,
Mm,
which
okay.
he is in that element. Um, so I think that was the main reason why he was picked, was just for that reason, just to um, fulfill a story need, and he's also my favorite.
Yeah, he's one of my favorites too. And I mean, you're a fan of the G1 show, so he's very prevalent in those early episodes as well. And I think the fact that he's both, he's fun to see that, especially when you're showing a first issue where you have robots turning into vehicles and all that. He doesn't fit that at all. So he's like,
Yeah, that's true.
his robot mode is an animal. So that just totally changes things.
Yeah,
And yeah,
totally.
yeah, okay, good. Yeah, so I was curious about that. And let's say, I know we do not have too much time, but you mentioned that you said for the first year, so I'm curious. Obviously, anything can happen, but like on your end, what are you actually like planning for this? Like, okay, if we could give you an amount of time, like what amount of time do you need to really tell like the story that you have in your head before moving on to even, bigger things?
Sure. Well, I definitely think of things in terms of arcs. So, my first thing is definitely the first six issues, the first arc, that first
Okay.
collected trade paperback,
Yeah.
making sure that something is digestible, be just satisfying, but also, you
All right. So,
know, you want only be satisfied you also want them to come back for the next show. So that's kind of the goal with Transformer. Each arc having its own story that people can latch.
All right. No, okay, I completely get it. Okay, so it'd be
Yeah.
arc by arc. Okay, good. Now, however, at the same time, I do find it pretty cool that in this first issue, you still get
Mhm.
obviously you're left wanting more, but you still feel that you've eaten like a nice meal. I don't know, I'm doing terrible metaphors here. You do feel
I
satisfied.
know, dude. You're right on the money.
Good,
Totally.
okay,
Yeah.
okay. Because I mean, I've read other issues, like we'll say the X-Men comics right now, okay? I was
Sure.
reading them, and I no offense towards anybody on them. I know that it's part of it that they have a much overarching story, but I don't feel like come away with much. All I feel is like Kitty Pryde walked down a corridor, and that's about it. Like, so I don't get much. But in this
Sure.
case,
Sure.
I get a bombastic story still. I mean, you give an entire arc to Jetfire within one issue, for instance. Okay. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
So I was wondering, is that just the first issue, or is that what you're planning on doing for each issue until, let's say, the first arc wraps up?
Well, how do I say this? You know how we were talking about how Bumblebee meets his end?
Yes.
That was as much a choice to talk about uh, or to bring up Starscream's dastardliness as much as it was Optimus Prime's goodness.
Hmm.
And I really don't like stories where things are held off and held off and held off because characters are just not quite being honest with themselves.
Hmm.
It's a lot of times it's a bit of a storytelling device that gets TV shows to go a little longer than maybe they should. Um, I really like stories that have characters that take action immediately because it's what they want, and keeping it simple and having the story be driven by the decisions of less than ideal people and scenarios or robots and scenarios. And uh, to that end, it's that spark that causes conflict, which then in turn makes us want to keep flipping through the pages, makes us want to continue reading the story, and allows for some sort of resolution by the end of the issue and by the end of the arc. And that's something that I feel very strongly about as a storyteller, something that I'm trying to maintain and hold on to throughout all of my stories that I've ever done in the past, now, and going forward. So it's kind of, I'm glad you noticed that. It's something that I've been trying to do, on purpose.
Well, once again, you aced it. So congratulations to that, and it's a great first issue. I really hope that
Thank
everybody
you.
enjoys it. Okay. So
Thank you very much.
on this note, I see that I'm out of time. You've been very
Okay.
generous, you and Shannon.
Oh, yeah.
So I believe it's time to say our goodbyes for now. Okay, but I wish you all the very best.
Thank you, sir. You too.
Thank you. Take care, Mr. Johnson. Bye.